Hello folks, my name is Mark and this is Why I Hate the World. How you guys doing? And this is a video in a series I like to call Stupid Things That People Say. And this is Stupid Things People Say from the Alt-Right. So there's been a lot of talk about the Alt-Right in news circles lately. Basically, ever since Hillary Clinton spoke about them in one of her speeches, basically saying that they were the, they're Trump supporters, which they overwhelmingly are. Okay. And so what the alt-right is it's basically just conservatism online. And because it's online and it's hidden, like your identity is generally hidden online unless somebody tries to investigate and dox you or something. What happens is that people get carte blanche to just express their most ridiculous, bigoted desires, right? And, opinions and things. And so the alt-right has kind of made a name for itself for being extremely vile and lots of racism and shit like that going on in there. But it is pretty, first and foremost, a racial movement, you would say. So with anybody that has like extreme views like this, there's also a lot of really, really ridiculous logical leaps that get made in order to justify all of this bullshit. And they end up saying a lot of very ridiculous things. So there's just a couple of things. So I basically listened to an interview on, there's an interview with a guy named Jared Taylor, and he's the editor of American Renaissance. And this past August 29th, he was on the Diane Rehm show on NPR, speaking, and they gave him a lot of room. They didn't really challenge him very much. They just basically let him say his thing. And here's a couple of things that I heard him say, but I've also seen these online, these general opinions online, so these are not just opinions that have come from like one guy, but I see them a lot in things like, alt-right circles on Reddit and elsewhere. Number one, that a majority has a right to remain a majority. This is usually something they throw out to justify trying to like limit immigration and race mixing and shit like that. That is of course bullshit. You don't have a right to remain a majority anywhere. No one has that. That doesn't exist, right? That's not a legal right, and it's not even something that that makes any sense. It's like population, just because you're the most people that live in an area doesn't mean that you have the right to remain the majority population. That's complete bullshit. So, that's fucking a load of crap. Another way is that they say that a particular race is tied to the cultural and history of a country. That's also bullshit, I mean, you could say that, like, for example, Japan, is for Japanese people, because traditionally Japanese people live there, but that's like that's an extremely weak argument when it comes to like not allowing non-Japanese people to move to the country. Okay. It's like, what kind of shit is that? It's like, you can't live here because you're not the same race as the majority of people who have always lived here. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, what is this, the fucking 12th century? Like, seriously, that's an extremely backwards and bigoted way of looking at things. There's no reason to think at all whatsoever that immigrants of a different race are going to fuck up your country somehow, or that they're going to ruin the cultural identity of your country. It's complete fucking bullshit. Let's see. Businesses should have the right to discriminate. So basically they wanted to change it the way it was back in the 50s where, you could have like whites only restaurants or whites only, swimming pools or shit like that. Or, no black people. Like, it used to be back in the 50s, right? Back in the 40s and the 50s, if you were black and you went shopping, like, let's say for shoes, right? And you tried on a pair of shoes, they would make you buy those shoes because no white people would like touch the shoes after a black person touched them, right? That's true shit. That actually happened, right? So that's why you would see things like, no colored people allowed, no black people allowed, right? I mean, can you imagine if we lived in that kind of society today? Right? This is the kind of shit that these people want to return to, and they want to make that like the law of the land. It's fucking absolutely ridiculous. What else? Let's see. They are not in support of forcible segregation. So they want to make it so that, businesses can segregate, right? But they don't want to force segregation the way that it was. They just want people to do it on their own. Well, okay, right. That's still fucking bullshit. And somehow I don't really believe them. Somehow I think that if we were to get like an alt-right race realist guy to be the president or something, right, somehow I don't think that he would vote down a bill that would come up that would force segregation. Most people prefer to be around people like themselves of their own race. And that's, how do you know that? All right, so one thing that this guy cited in his interview was that, well, when black people move to a neighborhood, white people move away. Well, all right, so that happened in the past, okay? That was a thing in the 50s and 60s and 70s when a black person would move into your neighborhood, white people would move away, and it was because property value would go down, number one, first and foremost, right? So your house isn't worth anything, so you move out, right? Does that really happen today very much? That kind of gentrification? Yeah, maybe. Is it race-based? Probably not. Okay. I severely doubt it. What's really probably going on is that, exactly that. Your home values, collapse. And then you move out because you can sell your house, right? And make a nice profit on it. Probably doesn't, the thing is, attitudes have changed, right? I mean, there is still racism still exists today. Okay, a lot. It's bad, right? It is not as bad as it was 40 years ago. I don't think there's anybody out there, even, nobody out there is going to say that it's as bad as it was 40 years ago, right? We don't have segregated buses. We don't have fucking, we don't have Jim Crow. We don't have, like, people getting thrown out of restaurants and shit. Now, you're not allowed to shop here because you're not, not white, shit like that, okay? And just even in the general culture, right? It's generally looked, racism is looked down upon, right? It still happens a lot. We still have major problems with race in this country, especially with the police not treating black people equally. I mean, just their tendency to just blow them away for no reason, that can't be denied, okay? But to say that it's because it's like, because people like to generally be around people of their own race. That's how can you prove that? That's just such an overgeneralization, right? Based on the most flimsy of evidence. And that's the thing with, with racist people, right? Is with racism and that idea that it's incredibly lazy thinking. I don't know. There was just one last thing that I want to address here. One last thing this guy said. And I'm not making this up. Okay. He said, we live in an oppressive society because somebody can lose their job for expressing these opinions, right? So he's mad because if you're running around out there, spouting all this like hateful, racist, bigoted bullshit, that people will get mad at you and you might lose your job. All right. Boo fucking who, man? I'm sorry. That's the thing, all right? There's no law that says that you have to fire somebody if they're a bigot or a racist, right? There's no law that says you have to be their, that you're not allowed to be their friend. Okay, that's something that people do on their own, all right? When you see someone that's a complete racist sack of fucking garbage, and that's your right is to ostracize that person. That's completely your right. For example, there was a video I saw not that long ago about this one guy who came out to these protesters and was like, one of the protesters was black and the dude was making gorilla noises and shit. I don't know if you guys remember that. If I can find it, I'll put a link in the bottom thing. They tracked that guy down. Somebody found his Facebook profile. That guy got fired from his job. I don't feel bad about that at all. All right, I don't feel bad about that at all. If you don't want to get fired, right? If you don't want people to fucking ostracize you socially, then don't act like a fucking jerkbag in public, okay? Don't be a fucking dick in public, right? It's the same kind of thing that if I went around saying that I was a pedophile and I loved pedophilia and I loved raping children and I was a card-carrying member of NAMBLA and all that other crap and I wore a t-shirt saying, "Have I raped your child today?" and all that other stuff, people would have a right to ostracize me if I were to do that, if that was my thing, okay? If I went around saying I love rape in general and I named myself Rape Man and I put on a costume and went out and advocated the awesomeness of rape, I could see why people would like ostracize me, right? They would report me, you know, they would harass me online probably, right? They would probably send, you know, find out where I worked and send, you know, videos of me doing that shit to my boss. And my boss would fire me, and he'd had every right to, you know why? Because he doesn't want somebody fucked up like that representing his company out there. The same way that, you know, it's your right to fire someone who's a racist piece of fucking garbage because you don't want them representing your company. So that's complete fucking bullshit, you know, and if anything, you know, you're not, if you're a racist, right, you're not a fucking victim. That's the thing that's coming out. It's either they're trying to change it around so that they go, well, we're the victims because we're not allowed to express ourselves. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. You're not the victims, all right? The people that you're bigoted against, the people you're discriminating against, they're the fucking victims, not you. Anyway, so it's just like, it's like every example of racism, you know, it's a product of lazy thinking, a product of bad reasoning, and, you know, ultimately it just makes, you know, the person that does it is just fucking stupid. That's all there is to it, you know. Anyway, that's all I got. Adios, folks.